Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Talk Show. I'm your host, Dr. India White, and I'm so excited to come on the show today to talk to you guys about relationships. I know so many people have told me that they're interested in this particular segment today. We've got a phenomenal guest on the show who knows the ins and outs about dating, relationships, red flags, marriage, how to stay married. Okay, I'm looking forward to bringing this wonderful person on our show. I did tell you, ladies, that if you had a favorite color or a favorite flavored ice cream or coffee, to go ahead and grab that so you can snack on the show. I do have a confession. I have not had ice cream in so long, y'all. I don't remember. So I did buy some ice cream, and I must confess, I had a drumstick and it was vanilla flavored and it was delicious. And I fell into the temptation. I've not had vanilla ice cream. I've not had ice cream in so long. So it was really a breath of fresh air to be able to just kind of dabble in that ice cream and just go there. But anyway, I didn't get my French vanilla coffee. That's what I didn't do. I usually get French vanilla coffee with French vanilla creamer, and all this is so good. I drink Folgers. If y'all like Folgers, comment Folgers. If you don't, then comment something else. I like Starbucks too, but Starbucks sometimes is just a little much, a little too sweet. But anyways, with that said, I hope you guys got your coffee and your ice cream, and I hope you've got your listening ears and that you are ready for the show. We are going to go all the way in on the show. So I'm going to bring in a phenomenal guest. She's a life coach. She's an entrepreneur, a minister, mentor, author. Like, she's a rock star at her own right. And I'm so happy to be able to have her in my inner circle. So I'm going to bring onto our stage now life coach Tarsha Campbell. Welcome.
Hi. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm doing great. So good to see you. Thanks so much. So we are going to be asking you questions about yourself. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Tarsha.
Okay, well, I'll be happy to do so. And thanks again for having me on as a guest. I'm excited about being here and sharing tonight. And a little bit about me. Again, my name is Tarsha Campbell, and I am an author. I also am a publisher, an entrepreneur, and work with many different entrepreneurs and helping them to get their businesses and nonprofits and ministries off the ground through what I do. I call myself the next step coach. And what I mean about that, I help people to figure out what their next step should be and how they can progress and move into the things that they know they have been purposed and called to do. And so I'm really excited about my work in that aspect. And then, like you said, I'm a life coach. I love to help people figure out life and where they want to be and what they want to achieve and how they can achieve it. And so that's a little bit about me. I live in the Central Florida area with my husband of 32 years. And so I'm just so excited. I'm also a mother. My kids are grown now, which, yeah, hooray for grown kids. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about me. Yeah, a little bit about me.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. So you're the perfect person to have on our stage today. Marriage is in the air right now, Tarsha. We know that. People are getting married left and right. I just saw a post today. This girl's like, so glad to marry my best friend. It was 64 days. And I'm like, okay, girl, do your thing, right? So we want to talk to you. We want to talk to you a little bit about marriage and tell us about your own, maybe tell us your testimony. How did all this come about? And what advice did you have for people? Because we're going to talk about some statistics today as well about dating and things. And so we're just going to kind of pick your brain because I looked at your bio and I know a little bit about you. You've been hanging in there with your boo for 31 years. And so we want to know first, I give you kudos because that is a wonderful accomplishment. And so, yes. So I would love for you to just shine for a minute. Talk to us about that. How's that been?
Well, it's been wonderful for me, actually. I really enjoy being a married woman, but I can also say I enjoyed being a single woman as well. Although I can also say that I wasn't a single woman very long, in the sense that I didn't do a whole lot of dating, because I was really blessed to be able to find the one that I know was the one for me, and he felt the same way. And pretty much it happened, 33 years ago, because we actually been married 32 years in July. And
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, it happened.
Congratulations.
I'm telling you, I feel so blessed to be able to call him my husband. But it happened for us probably about 33 years ago. And I was actually getting ready to graduate, get this, from high school when I met him.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I met him actually a week before I was to graduate from high school, and he came down to visit a ministry that I was a part of with a
Uh-huh.
mutual friend, and we met in that way. And I got to tell you, a week before I met him, maybe 2 weeks before I met him, I was walking down the street with one of my friends, and all of a sudden I just felt, oh my God, I feel like I'm in love. I feel like I'm in love. And I tell you, I met this guy, and when he came to town, my godmother, who I was staying with at that time,
Uh-huh.
she saw him and the other mutual friend, and she said, Russell brought this guy with him, and Tarsha, I know this guy is for you. He is for you. He is for you. And I was like,
Wow.
what is she talking about? You know, I wasn't even thinking about marriage or anything like that. And
Right.
so when I saw him, I was like, oh, okay.
He was
You know,
cute.
it's like the little bells and whistles started to go off. And so that's how it happened for us. I saw him, and then we came together that weekend, and little did I know, eventually we would get married. And he was getting ready to wrap up college,
Oh,
and I was coming,
wow.
getting ready to
Hmm.
start college. So that's how I started.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually came to my high school graduation. Can you believe that? My high
Oh,
school graduation. So
look
that's
at
how
him
I met him.
chasing you. He chased you. He
I
chased you
did. Yeah,
down.
we both hung in there with one another,
Yeah.
even during our dating time. So it's a beautiful relationship. I love it. I still love him. I still call him my
Oh.
boyfriend, and it's just a wonderful thing, in my opinion, to be married and to find the one that you love. It really is.
That is so beautiful. Thanks so much
And
for sharing your testimony.
you're welcome.
How
You're
long did
welcome.
you date him for? Was it a year? Was it a couple of months? Was it a couple of weeks?
Yeah, we dated for a year. We dated
Okay.
for a year, and it was a very trying time, in that he was also wrapping up his time in the service, because he was a serviceman. He was in the Navy,
Got
and
you a
so
good man.
yeah, 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 a serviceman. So he's all disciplined and intelligent and
Right.
everything. And so within the scope of us of that year that we dated, he actually went away for 3 months during that time. And I tell you, that was one of the hardest times that I had to endure without him. But I
Yeah.
was able to make it, because we communicated by mail and
Hmm.
everything. And we were able to maintain our relationship during that time. It was
That's
wonderful.
beautiful. Thanks so much
Mhm.
for sharing out. So,
You're welcome.
I want to now talk a little bit about let's talk a little bit more about what you've done. So, you're married. I know you've been married 32 years now with three
32
children.
years,
Talk
yes.
about your children and all that. This is wonderful.
Well, we actually have two children together, my husband
Okay.
and I, and when we got married, we had decided early on that I would be a stay-at-home mom, and we also decided early on that we were going to wait. We weren't going to just jump right into being
Okay.
married and then go into being parents. So we actually waited for 3 years before we had our first child. And so when we did, we came together even with that decision. It wasn't something that just happened. Oops, we made a mistake. We actually planned out when our
That's
children would
beautiful.
come. Yeah, and so the first one came 3 years after we were married. And I always encourage people when they're getting married, really set aside time so that you and your newly found spouse can really get to know one another. And I'm so grateful that we did that, because we were able to really cultivate a really strong foundation before the children came. We were able even to save money, to get ourselves situated, even in our careers, and
Right.
just find a place to stay. So that's what happened with us with our first kid. And then we spaced that thing out when it came time to have the second kid. And the second kid actually came 6 years later. And
Oh,
so that was
wow.
all planned too. That was all planned. And a big part of what we wanted to do with our children was we wanted to make sure that one of us could be home with them in their earlier years. So we situated ourselves in that 3-year period where we would save money, and then we even practiced living on one income so that when the baby came, we could live comfortably and still one stay at home. And so I was a stay at home mom with both of my kids. And that was the same time I ended up starting and looking into starting my businesses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
This
so I
is
was
so
able to do
amazing.
that.
You guys did it so right. I love it.
Yeah.
I just love how you didn't rush things and how you just, it's like you just waited. It's like you could
Hmm.
just tell God just favored you on that. And so I commend you for being able to talk that out with him and really kind of look out for each other's best interest. And I'm so happy for your success and that you're able to still be a successful entrepreneur, even though you also were a stay-at-home mom. So it's beautiful. And I know for all of us ladies, that looks different for every house, you know. And it's just, I think the most important thing though is being able to really communicate that piece with your partner and saying, this is what I like. How about you? Okay, let's kind of meet on a mutual ground and figure that thing out. So I think it's beautiful that you're able to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about highlight some of your things that you've done. I know you have some websites. I know you have a website called Womb Mentoring. So
Hmm.
you do mentoring as well.
Yeah, I
Can you
do.
talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that actually is a part of my business, Tarsha Campbell Empowers, and it's called Womb Mentoring Incubator and Delivery Room.
Oh,
And
wow.
I say it's a safe haven where purpose-bearing leaders go to develop their vision and birth their mission and launch revenue streams to fund their dreams. And what makes this incubator special is that I have geared it towards women who find themselves, as I call myself, a hybrid, in that I work in ministry as well as business. And so in this incubator, and it's a virtual incubator, which means that we gather online. Even before COVID, we have been gathering online people that have gone through the program. And so what I do each month is we have some lessons and sessions where I teach them how to build their ministries and their business from the ground up. So we start with
Wow.
foundational things that they would need to be able to be successful in the 21st century. Because with technology, it's a whole nother playing game, a whole nother playing field when it comes to really launching your business and getting
Right.
your ministry off the ground. So I really
Hmm.
teach them the different tools and the different strategies that they would need to be able to operate in this new territory that we find ourselves in. So from clarifying what their mission and vision is, their core values for their business as well as for their own personal lives. We look at vision. We look at being able to set up on the internet with your website, social media, building relationships. And then we even go into more self-development classes as well, where we talk about, how do you see yourself and how do you find balance in your life
Right.
when you're trying to be a mother or a wife or a minister. And so those are some of the things we do in that incubator. And it's really centered around mentoring them in a sense that they don't have to figure out things like I had to figure out on my own when I
Right.
started my businesses. And so that's the good thing about having a mentor. You don't have to spend years and so much time, looking and researching, trying to see what works and what doesn't work. But if you have a mentor that you can connect to and that she or he can pour into you, it really saves you a lot of time, heartache, and expense
Right.
in the long run. So that's what that program is all about.
That's so beautiful. And I also see, I just commend you. I compliment you on this. And I also know that you not only have this business, you are also a rock star author. And so you've got 7 books. Tell us about this. I mean, you've done all this while maintaining your home, maintaining your relationship with your husband, your business, and you're still able to push out 7 books. Tell us
Mhm.
a little bit about your journey as an author, and then we're going to go into this topic about relationships and marriage because I know everybody
Mhm.
is waiting to hear about that as well. But I want to really highlight you and how did all this come about with you becoming an author? How did you know it was time?
Well, I became an author, and it may be hard for some people to believe. Actually, over 26 or 7 years ago is when I published my first book, and it happened at the time when, like I said, my husband and I had decided that I would be a stay-at-home mom, and so I was home with my first child, and I could clearly hear in the spirit or the Holy Spirit speaking to me to write a book. And so it was at that time that I decided that I would write my first book. Now, what's really funny about that, I didn't know anything about how to use the computer. I didn't know anything about typing, and I barely can still type, really fast and well. But it was at that time I began to pick up a pencil and a pad, and I began to write my first book. And my first book was actually some information that I had gathered as I went through a school of ministry and learning how to really establish yourself as an effective minister. So I wrote a book that was called Called and Chosen, a study
Oh,
guide
wow.
to ministry. Yes.
Woo!
And it had 12
Send
lessons
me
in
the
it that would
link.
help. It had 12 lessons in it that would help ministers to really be
Wow.
impactful and really get their messages out with great impact whenever they did it. And so that was my first book. And then from that first book, I went on to do other books, but during that same time also, when I put my first book out, people started to ask me, how did you do that? Can you help me publish my book? And so from that first book sprung the first business where I started helping other people publish their books as
Beautiful.
well. And so that's how my story ended. And so over time, I have really put some time in studying, researching, and also just really tapping into where I see people have pain points in the target audience that I know I have been called in. So those other books evolved out of me wanting to help people
Wow.
overcome because I had also I overcame in those areas. So
Where were you in my book series, Power of an Overcomer?
well, second book, your
Yeah,
second book, we
that's
can make
okay.
sure you get in there. So yeah, that's my story
This
with
is
those two
amazing.
books. Yeah, and so over the years, I have made it my goal to really seek to publish at least one book a year,
Hmm.
and so
Right.
that's where I'm at right now.
That is beautiful. I
Hmm.
love everything you're saying because it's like I can tell you're so balanced and you're like cushioned in the purpose and in the will of God. Like I can tell you found the will of God for your life and that you're effective in what God is asking you to do and you are just shining and you are impacting so many lives. And so my hat goes off to you. Thank you so much for how you've given back and just for the work you've done in the ministry. Talk about um, how has that been with the ministry and how long have you been ministering for?
Okay. I would love to share about that. That's one of the things that I really know for certain that I have been called to be a minister and to speak God's word. And my call to ministry was recognized by me actually when I was 15 years old is when I answered the call of God in my life. And I actually got saved when I was 12 years old. And what made my journey into ministry really easy to transition at that time was I was a part of a ministry that was a school of ministry in the sense that they helped people who were a part of that ministry really prepare themselves to go out and minister for the Lord. And so during my time in this ministry, I received hands-on ministry training. I was a part of an evangelistic team, and we would go from city to city with a gospel tent and set up a tent meeting there. Sometimes we would stay 1 week, 2 weeks, and sometimes we even stayed months in a particular area. And then from that tent meeting, many souls will get saved. People will be set free, delivered, healed. And it's during that time, because we were in this ministry and we were trained to be a part of that ministry, we got to be a part of what was happening in those different revivals. and those evangelistic crusades that I was privileged to be a part of. And so a lot of my ministry training came during that time. And so as we began to go from city to city, we didn't want to just leave the people there and not really have a place to go after they received Christ. So
Right.
we started setting up churches in those different areas. So being a part of those church plantings that happened during that time was an essential part in helping me to develop as a minister as well. And so when I met my husband, that's where he found me. I was doing the will of the Lord. I wasn't looking for a mate. I wasn't looking for a date. I wasn't looking for a boyfriend. I was about doing the work of the Lord. And so he found me there. And I was blessed when he found me there. He was able to see, hey, this is important to her. I'm not going to stop her from doing what God has called her to do. And so throughout my marriage, I've been able to still maintain my position as a minister and be able to progress in that particular area of my life as well.
Wow. See, this is very interesting because I've got to be honest with you. I'm going to start going over the marriage statistics right now.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the statistics, it says that there are 16.6 out of 1,000 women that are aged 15 or older that were married last year, and the national divorce rate is 7.7 out of 1,000. I'm bringing this up because you mentioned something to me. You said that you were able to still have a successful ministry, business, and everything with your husband. Some women fear. There's a fear out there that if I get married, I have to stop everything, and my husband won't support me. If I decide to date this guy, he might be controlling or whatever. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the qualities of a man. And I just kind of want to hear your opinion about these things. And then we're going to talk about, just what you think it's going to take too, as far as like when somebody's looking for a mate. So I want to talk a little bit about the first set of qualities. I'm going to do two sets of qualities. The first set that I found, Tarsha, says here, women, the main things that they look for in a man are chemistry, vulnerability, stability, equality, awareness, emotional perseverance, or emotional presence, curiosity, protectiveness, acceptance, and that he's assertive. So some of these that I looked at, and I found this from Red Book Mag. Out of these qualities, which ones do you think are really kind of top notch and that women should really kind of consider when they're choosing a mate?
Well, I think as I'm looking at the list here, I really think it's important that you find someone that can see you as an equal. That would be top on my list. I know chemistry is good. That is the main thing that would attract you to that person. That's the main thing. But I don't think we need to make that the main thing when we're really sizing up if that person is the right person for us, because you really want to find someone that you're equal with. Someone that can really grow with you as you can continue to grow in your life and in your own essence of who you are. Because that's what I can say about my husband and I. I often tell him now that I'm really not the same person that he married 32 years ago.
Wow.
Because I have grown over the years, and I can say the same thing for him as well, that he is not the same person. And so a lot of times I think couples, as one begin to progress in their life, to grow, in their sense of who they are, and even in the sense of what they've been called to do in their purpose and in their careers, if they're not able to really grow together and see that person as their equal and see that person as a intricate part of their life, then they can draw apart. And so I think it's important that you find someone that's equal in the sense of you see life in the same way. You're able even to raise your kids in the same way. You handle your money in the same way. That's important. And I think a lot of times when we don't go in seeing each other as equal, and then we don't see the compatibility that's necessary, and even allowing a person to be who they were designed to be, that's how sometimes marriages and relationships don't make it. Don't make it. And you have to be flexible. You have to be flexible and allow that person to grow. Because when my husband met me, I was a strong woman. I was a strong spiritual woman, but I still had some issues and some baggage that I myself, I wasn't even aware of until I began to progress even in my own adult life. When I left home and
Right.
began to engage with the world, there were things within me that I began to notice that I had insecurities. And so he was patient enough to really allow me to really go through a whole time of healing and restoration.
Wow.
And so as he waited for me, God, he could see the value of what I would become as I came out of these things. And the same thing with him. And so being able to be
Wow.
equal and seeing each other as equal, even if we're in our weak spots sometimes, it's important in a marriage. And acceptance too is very important, I think.
This is
Very important.
all I could say is wow, because when a man find like usually like when a guy looks for a lady,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing they look at is she attractive? Is she hot? Is she
Yeah.
whatever? Like they're not thinking anything about are we equally yoked as far as like is
Yeah.
that going to do it? If they see a beautiful woman walk in, she's like a dime piece. But then there's another woman that's more like on his level, with this whole equality piece, and she's more
Mhm.
stable. Maybe she's further along, than
Mhm.
this other beautiful lady. He'll
Yeah.
choose the beautiful lady,
Yeah.
and it's so weird because we as women, we're not that way. We don't necessarily look. I know for my life, like I'm not going to necessarily look and say, wow, he's gorgeous, he's handsome, so I'm going to
Mhm.
choose him. I don't care how good you look. I'm
Mhm.
looking at what's on the inside. What are, like you said, that equality piece, like, are we equally yoked?
Yeah.
Are we equally yoked? Are we equally yoked financially? Are we equally yoked, in our careers or in what we're doing spiritually? Definitely
Mhm.
spiritually.
Yeah.
Like, so those are some things emotionally. And
Mhm.
I love how you said that your husband made room for you to grow. It's
Yeah.
it's like in a marriage, I think that's the biggest thing is, can I help this person grow? If not, I need to move out of the way,
Mhm.
and that's an honest, reflective piece that all of us would have to have when
Mhm.
we're trying to choose a spouse. So
That's
I think
true.
it's very amazing that you said that. I know for me, like I said, stability would be the main thing for me. And I think also acceptance, because if
Mhm.
a man does not accept you for who you are, ins and outs, good, bad, and ugly, it's
Mhm.
just going to be just a fight. It's just a fight. And you don't have time for that. We don't have time for drama. It's like you sign up for the package or you got to keep it moving kind of thing. And,
That's true.
so I appreciate you sharing out
Mhm.
your opinion here. So I
Mhm.
want to talk
Can I add
now.
something else to that? Can I add something else to that?
Yes,
As it relates to my relationship with my husband, even when we got married,
sure.
I could say I think chemistry is very important too because that is what initially attracts us to one another. And for men, that is a really strong thing because they're just visual in species. They really look at a
Yes, they
woman,
are.
how she looks and everything, and
Yes,
then
they are.
those who have a heart and a sense of understanding a woman at a deeper level, they will look deeper. And thank God for men that are like that. But I
Yes.
say also that women sometimes we look at the outward appearance as well and the chemistry. Because even with my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, when I first saw him, I have to tell you that me personally, at that time in my life, I really preferred a guy that looked a different kind of way. I was into what people call light skinned guys, and I really didn't
I
like brown
know.
skinned guys. But when I saw him and I saw the qualities that were in him and I saw how stable he was, all of that was out of the window. It was out of the
Right.
window because I could see that I had to look beyond what I thought I wanted from the outward
Yeah.
appearance of who God had for me. And I'm so glad. Oh my goodness, I'm so
Yeah.
glad that I didn't let that be the main determining factor of whether I would pursue our relationship further. I would have missed a quality,
Wow.
excellent, intelligent, wise man had I only looked on the outward appearance
Wow.
based on what I thought was good for me and what I wanted. And
I
I
am
love my
guilty.
God, man. Oh my goodness, I love him so much.
I'm so glad you shared this because that is, especially in our day with Instagram, Twitter, like it's all about lust and all about looking like
Mhm.
celebrity status and like it's
Yeah,
just so plastic,
yeah.
sometimes, and it's a sad situation because people are hooking up in
Hmm.
vain and they're
That's true.
marrying monsters. They're just, I don't know, like so I was guilty of that too. I mean,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
would look at the outward appearance, be like, oh wow, he's got the six pack, or he's got,
Yeah,
the look,
yeah.
and he looks a certain, spicy way, and let's do it. And
Hmm.
now I've repented.
We
I
all live and
repented.
learn.
It's like
Yeah.
so I mean, there's some beautiful, handsome men
Mhm.
out there, but
Yes.
it's not all about that. And so I'm glad you said that, and I hope that men see that's different from men because men really get hooked up on a
Mm-hmm.
woman's image, and they'll leave a woman because the way she looks.
That's
That's how bad it is. Like, and they'll marry a woman just because of the way she looks. Like that's why you've got much older men that'll
mhm.
have these way younger women because
That's
of
true.
the way she looks. They don't care about anything else. They just want a beautiful woman on their arm.
Mhm.
Some men, they just want a trophy wife.
Yeah.
So it's just like all these different motives, and it's unfortunate because some men deal with heartbreak when they shouldn't have to because
Yeah.
of the way they choose, and there's nothing we can do about that. That's just, if
Yeah.
you're not going to take it to prayer, if you're not going to consider,
Yeah.
all of the qualities of a woman, then you're going to have to deal with the consequences if she falls short in other areas because you
Hmm.
chose her for her beauty. And, there's nothing we can do about that. You just got to kind of get out of the way, let a man choose. And
That's
it is
true.
what it is.
Yeah.
So,
But I do think once a guy reach a certain maturity level, they start to see what's really important when it comes to choosing a wife. Even as I'm watching my son, as he starts to mature, I'm hearing his language change when it comes to really his relationships and how he views the one that he would choose to be his future wife. So over time they do change if they're wise men and they can get just the whole physical thing, set that aside and start to
right.
look at the heart of the woman and what she's about. I do think they start to change after a while if they're
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah. And godly, I
And
mean,
yeah,
you
that's
got
true.
men in the ministry that, if
Hmm.
they can, you know, get over the, put the looks, like you said, to the side, and
Hmm.
I think too, I don't know what you think about this. I do believe God does also speak to people. I've heard of testimonies, some of the older saints, like what, I fellowshipped at in a particular congregation. And I
Hmm.
remember a couple, married for 30 something years, and
Hmm.
they only dated 6 weeks. God spoke to them and they said, let's do it. And they
Hmm.
stayed married, kids and everything. And I'm like, wow. They said, God spoke. There was nothing to doubt. Like, we
Hmm.
just knew we were ready to go. And I'm like, wow. Like, so sometimes you do have those special cases as well, where it's just a divine appointment.
Yeah.
So, it depends
Yeah, you
on
really
what's going
want
on
that
there.
though. I really think that's important to get that confirmation from the Lord that this is the person for you, because
Yes.
you don't want to waste people's time,
Yeah.
your time. You don't want your go through so much emotional trauma, because really
Right.
when you come together as one in marriage, that's really a relationship where your hearts and your minds and your emotions begin to be knitted together. And when something happens where you have to be ripped apart, that is traumatic. That's traumatic for you
Yes,
as an individual. It's
it
traumatic
is.
for your partner as an individual. And if kids are involved, they definitely will feel the ripple effect of you coming apart after you have already been joined together.
Yes.
Important
Yes.
that you really
Amen.
God and finding the right person for you. And I know that He can lead you in that way, because after a while, when my husband and I were dating, we both came to realize that we were meant to be with one another. And I still feel like that. I feel like he is a big part of what God would have to unfold in my life, and I have been a big part of what God wanted to unfold in his life. And together, we cause the whole plan to God for our individual lives and our corporate lives together as a couple to come to fruition, because that's the way God meant it to be.
So I'm going to go over some more man goals with you, and then I want to kind of talk to you about, how did you know it was time to marry and things like that. We'll get there. So I know everybody's like sitting on the edge of their seats. Welcome to the Real Talk Show. If you guys are just joining, so we're here with life coach Tarsha Campbell, who is an amazing example of a marriage, a wife, and she's been married 32, going on 33 years to her wonderful husband, and they've raised successfully kids together, adult children. And, I know through the ups and downs, they've been successful. So she has earned the right to speak out on the topic of dating and relationship and things. And so I want to now talk to all of you guys and to Tarsha about these second set of man goals that I was able to find on the internet from a very interesting website, bold.com. Says that women want a man that are financially solid, intelligence, street smarts, social life. He's honest, sense of humor, sex appeal, respectful, healthy mindset, affectionate, and that they're honest. I found that very interesting. And I wanted to see if you wanted to kind of chime in on this list here. After 31 years of marriage, what do you think of maybe the main 2 or 3 that women should kind of hone in on when they're choosing a spouse?
Well, for me, I think number 8 needs to be put to the top of the list, which is respectful, because I really think respect is a building block to having a successful marriage. And then I would definitely bring in 11, honesty. Honesty is very important too, because you want to be able to trust your partner, and you also want your partner to be able to be respectful to you, and you be respectful to them, because that is, to me, what builds a really strong and lasting relationship and a lasting marriage, that where everyone is mutually satisfied and they feel like they have a place within the scope of those 2 lives coming together. So that's what I would definitely say. I know being financially solid and stable, that's important, but you could lose all of that in an instant. Even when we think about what we're going through now, with the situation with COVID and the economic situation, if financially solid was the thing that we were to look at now, there would be a whole lot of marriages, that will be on the out now. But when we have respect and honesty, and being able to just really allow that to be the foundation for which we stand, and we can go through any of the other things that we encounter in life as a couple. I think sex appeal is good. And I actually think sex is a very important part of marriage, because it helps to really knit your heart together as you come together in those intimate moments. But sometimes you can have situations, medical situations, or health situations, where sometimes you can't come together in that way. So what do you have then? But if you have that respect, and if you have honesty, you still have that strong foundation to stand upon with your relationship, and you can weather the test of time.
Wow. You're correct. And I never even considered the whole sex appeal thing. I mean, at my age, it's like, sex is like, I would assume it's like at the top of the list, for someone my age. But I think that when you look at also having a healthy mind is everything to me, because I am all about like optimism and being positive and seeing the end of the tunnel, so for me, like if we're both down and out, that's just tough, it's just tough. I mean, we can't pull each other out, like that's gonna be tough. So, and like you said, I have to agree with you on respect. And that's in communication, that's in respecting how your partner feels. I'm very big on like emotion and like how I feel, and being able to communicate that. And there are times where like I'll be in a rut, I'll be in an emotional rut, and I'm trusting my partner, and so I'm going to tell them secrets of my heart. I'm going to tell them secrets of my day and things that I've had to go through. And if my partner is coming back at me cynical, sarcastic, demeaning, just despising me with everybody else, like, then I lose. Like, I don't know where there would be any room to breathe from all the pressures of life. And so I think, for me, like, if I was to choose, I think that would be one of the most important things, is to have someone that I know would defend me at all costs and would accept me, good, bad, and ugly. And that whenever I'm going through a hardship, I know he's there. He's there to talk me through it. He's there to pray with me. He's there to help me see the end of the tunnel and to see how we can move forward from the situation. That he's not going to judge me and throw all these stones at me with everybody else, kind of a thing. So I think that just having that healthy mindset, somebody has to be just really solid mentally to be able to do that, to help their partner. And I think too that if you and your husband, if somebody's able to really see the purpose of why you're with that person, like, I'm with this person because they need me for A, B, C, like, and I can operate effectively in A, B, C, then I think that's how we as couples can mold together and stay married and stay committed, because we know what our purpose is and how we can complement our spouse.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I like that.
So yeah. So ladies, I hope you ladies that are watching are enjoying this, and you gents out there, it's your turn. So I want to now talk about the men. And so it says the top 12. So the men said, no, we're not going to give you 10 qualities. We're going to give you 12 qualities. So the top 12 qualities. And I had to actually continue it on the list because I ran out of characters. So the top 12 qualities in a woman: they want her to be family and friend oriented, kind-hearted, smart, understanding, empathetic, ambitious. That's my favorite word. Consistent. She puts in effort for you, is what they're saying. Like, so she's gonna actually show that she's interested and put an effort in the relationship. She has the same values as him. She's friendly. She's loving and affectionate. And then the list continues. She has qualities that are the ones that he has as a man. So, or the qualities that she wants are the ones that he has. And then that she has a sense of humor. I got that from goodmenproject.com. So I just want to kind of talk about these and just, just talk about the men for a minute and how they're feeling and how can we help these guys out and how can we as ladies, kind of work on some of these areas. So what would you say about this list and how you prepared when you were becoming a wife?
I think number one is important, the family and the friend oriented, because I think it's important to a man that you be able to accept his world that he's been living in before you. And so his family is a part of his world and his friends, they're part of his world. So being able to merge into his life in a way where there's not conflict, you're not fighting with his mom or his sisters, or you're not fighting with his friends. That's important to a guy. I can see why that would be important if that's something that they value. But I'm really shocked that loving, and is that love and affection?
Yes, loving and affection.
That is number 10. Wow. Seems like that would be high up on the list, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know.
That's really, that got me there. But I guess kind-heartedness is an attribute of love. So maybe, that's where it's at right there. But I do think family oriented and some men too, they want to know if they are looking to have kids that you're willing to be the mother of their children as well. And so it brings me to a thought about my relationship. I am really surprised that my husband still wanted to marry me, my boyfriend at the time, because at that time I did not want any kids. I actually didn't even like kids at that time. I was like, oh, kids, yuck. You know what I'm saying? Because I just like, oh, their energy.
Right.
It would just get me. And so I'm so happy that this man was able to see beyond how I felt about children and still love me. So after a while, after we were together, I was actually the one that brought up, hey, let's have a baby. So my heart changed, and I'm so glad it did, because But where would we be today had he looked at me
Oh,
and said, I don't want kids at the time. But that
right.
changed.
I said
Yeah.
that too. I said
You
that
did?
too. I was like, I just want to work at, I wanted to be a stockbroker, work for, New York Stock Exchange and just make money. I didn't want any kids. I was just, I was just goal oriented about making
Yeah.
money and running a business. And so, in my experience, I also said the same thing. But now that I have two children,
Yeah.
Lord, if it's the Lord's will, I would have to do it all over again. I mean, I think I would be definitely more understanding this time
Mm-hmm.
around, versus like, when I was just like, oh no, definite no, like
Yeah.
I think ladies, and I think that's why men are saying, friend and family oriented, because if I'm going to have children with you, what am I bringing these children? What world am I bringing these children into? Do you have the nurturing spirit? And I
Mm-hmm.
know some men, they'll look for teachers in particular, because they know good teachers are nurturers and they know
Yeah.
how to build and to support children and make people great. And they
Mm-hmm.
want that legacy for their family. And so that's why I
Mm-hmm.
could see men having that as number one. I found number 7 very interesting, putting in effort for you, because
Yeah.
usually we're told that men are the chasers, right? Men are the hunters, but now we're in a generation where not necessarily they're going to hunt as hard, because you've got Instagram and
Yeah.
you've got all these girls out there flaunting everything. So they
Mm-hmm.
feel like, I don't really need to, chase. I mean, women are grabbing these men left and
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
so we're in a different time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm a little old fashioned. Like I've always said, if a man was for me, he's going to snatch me off the shelf. Like I
All
don't
right.
have to, chase or convince him. It's just going to happen. And
That's how
I think,
I think too. I think like
yeah,
that. I don't think we should necessarily be pursuing them in
right.
that we're just like,
Yeah,
just doing, being crazy about it.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's good that you can express to them how you feel about them, because I did that early on in the relationship with my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. I told him straight out that I liked him, and
yeah.
I thought
And
that we could really be a good couple together. So
women are playing too much nowadays with that. They're
they are.
playing too much.
I'm telling
They're
you, not
not
my
telling
favorite.
these men how they feel. And
Hmm.
then they get upset because the man never really knew. He was kind of like,
Hmm.
I'm not quite convinced that she's for me, or that she
Hmm.
wants me. So I'll start looking at Susie over here. Like,
Hmm.
I think that's where the women are messing up, is they're not saying it early on, and they're not being honest about how they
Yeah,
feel, and they're losing these good men.
yeah, I think it's
So I think
important.
I think it's very interesting that you brought that up. So it's something for us with ladies to keep in mind, to be honest with these men. And but when it says put in effort for you, I was like, whoa, like, because I was just always taught no. I know some people, they won't call a man, they won't text a man, nothing. Like he has to
Yeah,
do 100% of
yeah.
the chase, because she's like, no, you're not gonna come into my world, with
Mhm.
foolishness if you really don't want me. So I'm just gonna just stay at a distance, because and that's good. I mean, it's great to have boundaries, but at the same time, we don't want to overdo that and run a man off, So it's like kind of going with that vibe and figuring
Mhm.
out, okay, maybe I do. I mean, it's been 3 weeks. Maybe I could send him a hello, like,
Yeah, I
just
don't see
figuring out
anything
what.
wrong with that myself. I think
Yeah,
it needs
me
to be,
either.
halfway. He pursues you, and then he understands that you're interested in him,
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
So, and then also consistent. I found, I can see why a
Mhm.
man's saying that. If he's bringing a child into this world, he wants somebody that he
Mhm.
can trust and trace. Like,
Yeah.
okay, what's her routine? What does it
Mhm.
consist of? Is there worth in that routine? Like, I think another thing some women do is they wait around for their life to start when they get
Mhm.
married. And
Yeah.
that's where they're messing up. They
Yeah.
wait for their life to start when they get married, instead of
Mhm.
starting their life and then that guy comes along and you continue with him. A
Yeah.
man should not define our life, like
Mhm.
everything about our life. God has a
Mhm.
purpose for ladies as well. He's
That's
empowered
true.
us as well. What am I supposed to do? Sit around and wait? Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
my thing is, I'm, just trying to be respectful here. So, I think women have to kind of turn on the light bulb when it comes down to who they are and
I
their
do
divine
too.
purpose in the world
I do
before they
too.
even get a man. Like
I
they gotta know, like,
Mhm.
who you are and being
That's true.
comfortable in their purpose
Yeah.
before bringing that purpose into the world of another, in a man's world. I
Mm-hmm.
also feel like, and I feel too, like marriage is a ministry.
Oh, me too. Me
Taking
too.
on a man
Yeah,
and
yeah,
his assignments and
yeah.
everything, his vision, you
Yeah.
could break a man or make a man. And the thing
Mhm.
is, like, you have to be intentional about it. So my thing is, why would I want to bring a man in my life if I'm not ready to build him, or if I'm not
Mhm.
prepared to go
Mhm.
into battle for him spiritually, if I'm not prepared to sacrifice for him and to
Right.
help support him? I
Yeah.
need to sit down because I'm not ready. I mean, us ladies have to kind of think like that. And even if you're not in the church and you're watching this and you're like, oh, I'd like to get married. Well, what do you want to get married for besides having kids and maybe, having a romantic relationship?
Mhm.
What are you going to bring into this man's life? Like, what will you contribute? And I think that those are some things that women, we have to start thinking about before we just put ourselves out there.
I think
Um,
that's important too. I see marriage like you do as as a ministry as well. And one of the key words that you said when you were just talking there is sacrifice. We really have to go in, both the man and the woman, knowing that this is going to be a sacrificial relationship, which means you can't do things on your own like you did before as a single person, and that you have to really lay your life down to this person, and they lay their lives down to you as well
Ooh,
if you want to have a successful relationship. And I really see my connection with my husband being a big part of ministry in my life. I don't put uh, ministry outside and when I help others before him, because I think that is my first duty is to my husband and then to my family, as I begin to first put God first and then my husband and then the rest of my family. And I think that's been a big part of our success as well, is because we have maintained the proper order of the relationship. And I like to tell single women, it's important that you cultivate a relationship with God, and you being able to give your heart to God, because in the same way that you give your heart to God and you spend time with him in greater intimacy, that can translate over into your married life as well, because that's how you're going to have to really build your relationship with your husband. You have to really understand the importance of intimacy and sacrificing yourself, and even having that respect that God wants us to have for our husband. And then don't say that word, the S word, submission. A lot of women, we want to run away from that word and think it's really a bad thing. But in my opinion, submission isn't a bad thing. It's really what God has placed in the marriage as a protection for you. Because in the order of things, it's God, and then it's a man, and then it's a woman. And I
right.
think as we learn to submit to the will of God in that man's life, or in the man leading the
Wow.
family, that puts a protection
Ooh,
or a covering over me so that the enemy can't attack me. But and believe you me, I am a strong
ooh.
woman. I was a strong woman before he met me. I was a strong woman when we were dating, and I'm a strong woman now. But I still see the importance of allowing him to lead the family, because that's
Yes,
God's order. That's
yes.
what God says is best for us. And that's the way he sets this thing up. And in that, we're able to have a very fruitful relationship. And I'm able to stay protected under the covering of what God has established in the earth as it relates to marriage. So,
This is like a good pot of collard greens. I mean, you are
mhm.
spitting some good stuff here. I'm just like, I'm sorry. I'm just taking this all in. Submission, submission, submission. Okay, so many women have warred with that word
Mhm.
because they feel like, I'm not going to have anybody tell me what to do.
Yeah.
He's not going to come in here and tell me, no, I'm going to tell him what to do. And
Mhm.
he's going to, some women will feel like, I'm going to dog this guy out.
Mhm.
Even in the dating process, you going to bow to me. I'm the queen, okay?
Mhm.
You don't tell me what to do. I'm gonna run the show, and it's all jacked up from there, right?
It
And
doesn't work though. It
it
doesn't work.
doesn't work,
It doesn't
right?
work.
And
And
I
believe
feel
me,
like
like I said, I am a strong woman, but I have no problem fixing my husband's dinner. I actually, when he was going to work every day, leaving the house, I iron his clothes, I wash his clothes. I have absolutely no
That's right.
problem with that at all
That's
because,
right.
first of all, I respect him.
That's
Second,
right.
I have a great love and an honor, and I cherish him. And then I know that if I'm able to take care of his needs, and he can see my heart towards him, there's nothing that Tarsha Campbell has to worry about. And I have to tell you, since I left my mom's house, I haven't worried about a thing since I've been married to Dwayne Campbell.
Wow.
One thing. And it's
Powerful.
because I have went in that marriage knowing that I'm going to lovingly give my heart and myself to him, honor him, and I'm going to submit to the way God says marriage should be. And I actually have no problem doing it. And what I like to tell women too, you got to make sure you pick a man, the man for you that has a heart towards God, because he doesn't take and use that submissive heart towards him and God's will and abuse me with that, in any way. He
Wow.
honors God too in the same way that God says you got to love and cherish your wife. And so this thing
Wow.
all comes together perfectly as a fitted vision of the way God wants marriage to be. And I'm telling you, it's a sweet thing. It's a sweet
Yeah.
thing. We're allowed to be as so.
I think you said something so powerful
Mm-hmm.
that he doesn't abuse you with the the authority.
Yeah.
Some men
Mm-hmm.
struggle with this. I pray against this. Oh Lord. Some men, they have an ego problem and insecurity, and so they've got a controlling trip, right? They've got to
Right.
control their wife. And you'll see some men, they get married and then they do this to their wives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're now under my control and my authority. You are now
Mm-hmm.
nothing. You're
Yeah.
now trash. You do what I say. I
Mm-hmm.
trample all over your emotions. I trample all over you. I talk to you like you're just dirt. And then it just tears at that woman. He's seen her in her queen state, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'll do everything I can to undo everything that you built over the years, not
Mm-hmm.
to build anything. And it's sad, and they'll abuse that, and they'll usurp, like they usurp the whole emphasis of the ministry and of the whole order of
Yeah.
God's plan for submission in a marriage, in a
Mm-hmm.
traditional marriage. And so I think it's very interesting that you talked about how your husband never abused you. Like there's some men that'll be like, "You're my wife. You submit to me.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
submit to me, girl." And it's just like it's wild. And
Mm-hmm.
even in, they don't have to even be in the church. Like it's just sad. It's just a control trip. And I don't know why certain men see powerful, successful women as a threat, or they're intimidated by that.
Well, you
And
do have men like that, but I think it's important when we're choosing a mate as women that if you want to have a strong, godly marriage, that you want to choose a man that's submitted to God first and His ways.
right,
You know,
right.
because
And so, yeah,
he's not going to have a problem in loving you and treating you the way the Bible says that you should be treated. Just like the Bible talks about how a man should treat his wife as Christ treats the church. And Christ died so that the church could have a better life.
wow,
And I've seen this whole
wow,
sacrificial life being played out in my husband, even in how he has provided for me as his wife and provided for his family. And so it's really all about finding a man that has the heart of God and really is willing to obey the word of God and live accordingly as a husband as it relates to his wife and his children. So
wow,
that's important. You got to choose wisely.
yeah,
You can't try to figure that out once you get into marriage. You got to make sure that his heart is towards God before you get married.
wow. This is the problem. This is
Mm-hmm.
and that's the solution. This is the solution. And with that, I'm going to bring up some reasons why men break up with women and women
Mm-hmm.
break up with men. So let's start with the women first,
Mm-hmm.
because these guys need to hear it. So it says, top reason why a woman breaks up with a man:
Mm-hmm.
failed to deepen her feelings of respect, attraction, and love for him over time. And that came from Joy Pullman, a Federalist. And so with that said, that is a mouthful, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's all about. Like I can say personally, if I'm in a relationship, I'm kind of I'm observing the whole time and I'm analyzing. And I'm a math person, and so it's almost like an equation. And if I see that at the end of this equation there's no solution, I'm done. And it's like it's kind of like the song, when a woman gets fed up, there's nothing you do about it. It's done. She's done. She's not gonna talk about it. She doesn't want it. She's not gonna work it out. She might even give you a second chance. But at the end of the day, when a woman says, I've evaluated, I don't think you respect me enough, or I don't think you'd be good for my children. I don't think you'd be wise financially, or I don't think you would be able to really kind of meet the cut. Or sometimes God said no. So, it's like looking at all these different things, but at the end of the day, all those different reasons compile into this one main reason of being able to deepen her feelings of respect, attraction, and love for him over time. So, what would you say about that?
So it's saying that a woman breaks up with the man because she feel he has not deepened his feelings for her or respect. Yeah, I think that could be a reason why a woman would do so. Break up.
And the other way around too. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be flipped the other way around. And it goes back to what we said earlier about respect. Respect is so important. Everyone that's ever been born, I think we have an innate yearning to be respected and to be loved, and to be accepted. So this is, to me, is a big part of any relationship, especially a relationship that will eventually lead to you being married and coming together as a couple. So I can see why this would happen. I can really see that, because
I would hate to go home to somebody that makes me cry every day, or if I'm in an emotional pit with them, it's not gonna work. I don't care if you're a millionaire, a multimillionaire, a billionaire. If I'm going home, that's like the worst thing for a woman, is to feel like your heart's been trampled on over and over again. And like, this brings up love languages. Like there's like five or seven love languages. I know there's, like, for me, there's like words of affirmation, there's giving, there's the helper person, like, what's that, acts of service. There's quality time. There's I don't know, what are the other love languages? Do you know of the other?
Is it touching, the final one?
Which one?
Touching. They like,
yes, it's a touch. Hugs. Very huggy, lovey-dovey. Right. So for me, I'm not really a lovey-dovey type of person, because of different things that I had to go through in my upbringing. That doesn't mean I won't take a hug, but that's not the main thing that does it for me. I'm not going to fall apart if somebody doesn't hug me. But for me, it's words of affirmation, and it's giving and quality time, like those are different things. Like, and long story short, if a man knows you and knows your love language and he can't respect that, next, like, he's got to move out of the way. He's got to find the person that can speak his love language, and then he has to find the person that he's able to serve, and their love language. And I, maybe you could talk about this a little bit with your relationship.
I can't share something on that, because and I think sometimes you have to really, really be patient with the one that you see as being your husband or your wife. Because I could say early on in our relationship, I'm so glad that I noticed in my husband early on that he wasn't the type of man that would necessarily embrace and hug. And like you said, it was more of his upbringing. That's not really how they're not really touchy-feely people. And so had I only looked at that and judged him based on that, like I said, I would have missed a wonderful man that I know God had designed me for, and God designed him for me. But I can definitely say over time, though, the relationships and even the dynamics of the relationship has changed in that area, because he sees how important that is to me. And so now he's to a point after 32 years that even though he wasn't raised like that, to extend hugs and kisses, just out of the blue, he's able to do that now because of understanding that that's important to me. That's not my main love language, but he still sees that it was important to me. And so now he's able to do it as well. So I want to say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If the person that you're dating or the person that you're married may not be able to give you the type of love that you need, you got to just flow with them. And that goes back to that word of respect. We have to respect how a person is, respect how a person loves, respect how a person is able to receive love as well. Because sometimes if we have a different love language than the other person, we always expect that person to give the love language that we want to us. And that doesn't always happen,
Right.
But then on the other hand, we need to be sensitive to what the person is able to respond to as their love language. For me personally, words, they're my love language. And I tell my husband, you don't have to buy me a fancy car because I know you will, and you have. You don't have to give me this great big old house because I know you will, and you have. But all you can do for me, you can write me a letter. You can write me a love letter and say, Tarsha, and tell me how much you love me and how much I mean to you.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I right now today still have those love letters that we wrote each other when we were dating that 1 year, especially during the time when he was away in the service. I still have those love letters because that was important to me, and that's still important to me. And so, and to me, I'm finding his love language is really a person that's able to show him love and respect. That's his love language. And so because I know that, I've been able to extend that to him over and over again to reassure him that I love him and that he's the one for me.
That's so beautiful. And I'm so glad you spoke about those love letters, because that has almost been archived, in our generation. Everybody's texting, and it's like they lose those precious moments. And like for me, there's nothing like flowers, like in a letter, or like there's, it's so simple. Like I don't need, like I don't need the latest. It's so simple. And I think that once a guy is really able to study, somebody talked about how, like, I'm sure you've seen this. Like they talked about how their lady was a class that they took, and how they're trying to get a PhD on their woman, and they're like, just got their bachelor's, and they're trying to get to know a little bit more about her. And so it's kind of like the same thing. And I think that as long as a man is willing to kind of go on that journey and take a risk and, put his all into getting to know that lady, I think something good can really come out of it. So, but now I want to talk about the men, because they have reasons why they break up with a woman. So listen, ladies. So it says here that the bad outweighed the good. This was a shocker, and it was like, oh my gosh, you are a placeholder. You're a placeholder, so they don't even want you. Like you're just convenient for the moment, because they're trying to heal or get over somebody else that they really liked, or they're trying to wait for somebody else in queue that they really want. And so you're just a placeholder on the back burner that they're using until they're able to get to the one they really want. Wow. Cold. And then it says, he's just not that into you. That is so true and so deep. I tell you, Tarsha, if a man doesn't want you, he doesn't want you. It's women, we have to understand this. If he doesn't want you, you cannot write a dissertation to make him want you. You cannot buy him, the nicest car, the nicest outfits to make him want you. Nothing will work. That's why when we were talking earlier, it's so imperative that we allow them to chase, because, we have to be convinced that they want us, or else you're just wasting your time. You're wasting your energy. You're wasting your emotions. You're wasting your effort, because he's going to want somebody else. And then it talks about this. You're interfering with the rest of his life. He can't see himself marrying you. That's tough. The list continued. It said, you aren't who he thought you were. Wow. So you're a totally different lady. Or you didn't develop a deeper connection, so you didn't pursue, so he moved on. Or you're too negative. We've all had our issues with that. He got too angry. Now, I have to respect this. If a man says, I got too angry with you, you ruffled my feathers, our personalities just clashed. We're two lions, you know, in a den. I got to get out. I
Right.
respect him doing that than trying to work
Mhm.
out and then beating the crap out of the woman. Like,
Yeah.
I got to give my hats off to the guy. And then it says something else needs more attention because men are, you know, they're laser focused and sometimes they can't take
Mhm.
on everything. So, yeah, they're like, listen, I like you, but not now. It's just not the
Mhm.
right season, kind of a thing. So these are the reasons. Can you believe that, Tarsha?
Wow. I'm shocked by some of those things.
Yeah,
Some of them I'm
especially
not.
the placeholder. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm.
So these guys, we've exposed you, man. We've exposed you. So
Mhm.
it's very interesting. And a lot of heartbreaks going on because of just so much. And it's tough. It's tough.
Wow.
So yeah. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on that. I think just waiting on the right one is
Yeah,
that's
it's
what you
important
do.
that we wait on the right one. Can you go
Yeah.
back to the beginning again? Let me see it
Yes.
again. Bad outweighs the good. Yeah, I can see why that would cause a man to really look in another direction and head out the door. You know, because
Yeah.
they to me, and what I'm finding out in a marriage situation, they really want to be able to find rest in their woman and rest in their home and rest in their marriage.
Yes.
And if they come to a house that's full of chaos, or they um, when they're getting ready to walk through the door, they don't know which woman they're going to encounter when they, will she be sweet? Will she be loving? Will she be, yelling and screaming? That gets very old to a man. And
Right.
so him being able to come to his house and to his home and find rest when he's already been out in the world and having to do his thing and fight the world and just find his place there, he wants to be able to come and find rest. And so in my opinion and what I have done in my life, I really work hard to make sure when my husband comes home that he finds peace and there's
Right.
good in the home, and he can be who he
Good.
wants to be. He can be secure being himself. He can be relaxed. I don't put undue strain on him, knowing that he came out of the world. Now it's his time to really relax and be able to wind down. And so I think it's important that we make each other's life comfortable and sweet as possible. And it goes right back to that word again, respect. Give that person what they need. And I think that's one of the greatest prayers that
Wow.
you can pray. That's what I pray. Lord, show me what he needs and
Yeah.
allow me to be able to have the grace to give it to him, and
Wow.
vice versa. Vice
That's
versa.
beautiful. That's
Hmm.
beautiful advice. Peace. I think if these
Hmm.
ladies focused on peace versus their looks, you know, when
Hmm.
it comes down to trying to grab a man, I
Yeah,
think it
yeah.
would make a lot of sense as far as
Mhm.
with who they're attracting and why they're
Yeah.
attracting those guys. So this is very helpful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And
You're welcome.
and so, you know, it's with that said, you know, I mean, I know we are going to wrap up the show pretty soon. I know, Tarsha, people are going to want to hear from you. People might
Mhm.
want some of your coaching or they might want to invite you to come speak. And so, with that said, do you have any information as to how we can keep
Mhm.
in touch with you and, um, go
Sure.
from there?
Sure. And you are welcome. And I invite you to visit my website at tarshacampbellempowers.com. And there you can find more about what I do to help empower leaders, and also what I do to really help people to figure out what they want to do and be in life as a life coach. You can also go to that same website if you're interested in having me come and speak to your group. There's a booking form there. And then you can actually just spend a whole hour or hours there, because that's a place also where I really pen my thoughts in my blog. And so I do a number of things during the month that will empower leaders in the way of writing. So head on over to
Wow.
Tarsha Campbell Empowers. And also, if you're interested in having a book done, because I'm also a book publisher, you can go to mydominionhouse.com, and I'll be happy to service you in that way as well. Thank
Wow.
you
And
very
also
much.
social media. What about
Oh,
social
yeah,
media?
yeah. Yeah, look me up on social media. Tarsha L. Campbell on Facebook, and then on Instagram, Tarsha Campbell, and on LinkedIn, Tarsha Campbell.
Wonderful. Wow, this is amazing. Well, Tarsha, thank you so much for your time and your sweet presence and your wisdom. You are just a nugget of gold here. What a queen. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your wisdom on marriage and dating and relationships. And I hope that all of us ladies and those gentlemen out there are able to find out what it is that we need to do to make our relationships stronger, better, or even prepare for future relationships that God would have for us. So with that said, thanks so much, guys, for joining the Real Talk Show. I'm your host, Dr. India White, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Take care.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.